What's going on YouTube? Hey, it's Ben. I'm back again with another video. Thanks for checking out my content, guys. This is the channel where we talk about entrepreneurship, staffing, recruiting, and pretty much everything in between. So if you enjoy that kind of stuff, hit the subscribe button down below if you haven't already, and smash the like button for good measure. So let's jump right into it. Today's video is going to be about how do you have a conversation with a hiring manager? What do you say? What do you discuss? What points do you hit? What questions do you ask? So this is very important. A lot of people ask me this. A lot of people hit me up in DMs, whether it's on LinkedIn or the Six Figure Recruiting Academy or whatever. They ask me, what am I supposed to say? What do I ask? What do I say when they say this? That sort of thing. So I'm going to give you basically a simple framework, template, if you will, on what I do on my phone calls with hiring managers once a contract is signed. This is a conversation happening after a contract is signed to find candidates, and we're basically doing what we would call a discovery call at this point. So it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and there is strategy involved, so do pay attention. Here's how it kind of goes. The first thing off the bat that you want to discuss after you do some small talk and maybe chit chat about their company and learn more about them, they always like that, is which positions are you looking to fill? Which roles are you looking to handle? So this is the mainstay of the entire business that you and this entity are conducting. So it may be obvious already. It may be clear and simple that they're looking for, a delivery driver, or they're looking for, a production facility manager or something already. But it's important to go over exactly which roles they're looking to fill so that you can be crystal clear on which positions that you're going to be searching on. So you can simply ask them which roles, are you looking to fill? You can discuss those a little bit. And then you can kind of go into more of the rest of the questions, and they kind of lead off from there. So the next question I would ask is something along the lines of this. Historically, which one of these roles, if there's multiple roles, has been the hardest or most difficult for you to fill? And this is a question that just sort of leads into some conversation. So if they're looking for a production facility manager and then maybe like an assistant manager, maybe they've been having a lot of trouble finding a good assistant manager because they want that person to have a good level of responsibility and experience, but the pay is low. And so it's been in this difficult range for them to fill. And that's something that's really important for you as the recruiting agency to know going into your search so that you can maybe focus heavier on that a little bit to pick up the slack, because it'll probably be easier to find the actual production facility manager. So that's another question that I would just go in and drop on them to get them talking a little bit and things like that. Another super important question that leads to a lot of conversation and some more important gems that you might want to know are, what things have you been doing in the past? What methods have you been using to search for candidates thus far or in the past? So this could mean anything. This could mean, what have they been doing internally? Where have they been looking? Do they have ads on Indeed.com? Have they just been posting on Craigslist? Have they been going off of internal employee referrals? Or have they been using certain agencies? Have they used LaborWorks or Manpower or whatever it might be, or some other random agency that they don't name? That's really important, especially coming into a new search with a new client. You're going to want to know if they have used multiple agencies at the same time before, because at that point you're going to understand, again, competition isn't a thing. I don't believe in thinking about competition or even considering it, but it is important to know that if they're using LaborWorks and another agency, that there are two other agencies heavily searching for it. It's also important to know that if they have two maybe internal recruiters searching for the position full-time or something, that might tell you a lot as well. Because at that point, you may pivot the conversation and you might have an issue, because if a client has full-time recruiters looking for something and they're actually hiring you to bring you on to help with that search, that's cool and all, but if you've got two people full-time searching, I guarantee you they're giving high priority to any of the candidates that are coming from those recruiters, because they're not going to have to pay you a fee if they can find someone via their recruiters. So they're just using you for fun. So small topic, maybe for another video, but understand what methods they've used before and what search efforts they're currently undertaking for this position. Another awesome question that dives right into good conversation with the client is, what does your ideal candidate look like for this position? Like, what is your ideal employee for this role or that role or that role? It might just be one role, and they give you a whole gamut of roles. But what does your ideal candidate look like? Now, they can go ahead and just start spelling everything out, and here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna sit here and note take, note take, note take. You're gonna identify every single thing that they say, no matter how outrageous or unrealistic it is. Just note take it, put it down, and keep it on record so that you know what they're thinking in their head, so you can transmit that into your head and then look at that through their eyes when you do your search. So it's important to understand that ultimately you're looking through their eyes when you're searching for their candidate, because they're not going to take anything else other than that what they actually like. I know this from working with tons of different clients that once you figure out their type or their pick, then you know exactly what they want, and you can easily send them candidates that match up with that. So it's a really important way to kind of dive into further conversation and get out of them what their ideal candidate looks like. To kind of fade towards the end of the conversation, I asked them this question: what is your process? And what that means is basically, what's your interview process? What are all of the steps that you take once you have a new candidate, and how do you intake them? So unpacking all of that. So basically I'm asking two questions in one. I'm asking them, number one, how they want to get candidates from me. Do you want candidates at random? If I find a good candidate and they look awesome, do you want me to just schedule an interview and say, hey Bob, I've got Joe coming in tomorrow at 9 a.m. Here's his resume. Hope you're free. Or do you want to give me your time schedule and you want to let me know when you're available to take candidate interviews, and we can do it on a very rigid, basis like that. So what's their process pretty much means that. It also means, what is your process is how do you interview people? Like, what do you do? Do you sit down in an office with them and you just kind of go man to man, eye to eye, woman to woman, and speak with them and say, here's the questions I have for you. If you answer them right, cool. If you don't answer them right, you're out. This is really important. I talk to a lot of hiring managers, and they tell me, when I ask them, they tell me their process. They say exactly what they do. And this gives me a lot of key insight, because it goes back to the ideal candidate scenario. When they tell me what their ideal candidate is, I have a really good lens now for how to search. When they tell me what their interview process is like, I also have an extra good lens for how I'm going to search, because now I know two huge elements of how they're going to look at the candidate, so I can see what they're going to see before they see it, if that makes sense. I'm seeing what they will see before they see it, therefore I know which candidates to send and which not to send. Very important, because you're wasting a lot of your time if you're not identifying these factors up front. Then, this is the strategy portion that I throw in at the end. I basically tell them my process. And here's how things normally flow. So a hiring manager will explain their process. They'll tell you a little bit about how they interview. And if you have properly presented yourself as the expert, as you should have, explaining, that you can hire for these positions, that you've networked in these areas before, you've placed for these positions before, or that you totally understand this market, and you have a large network of these types of candidates, and you have a really good eye type of thing. If you do that properly, you can then go and explain what your process is and how you work with candidates and how you funnel them in. This is an opportunity where you get to basically explain to them how it's going to go. You sort of get to flip the script on them without them really knowing it. So what I do is basically tell a hiring manager, so here's my process. Basically what I'll do is I'll engage in the search immediately. We'll check our network out. We'll go through and we'll find candidates for you. We'll search and we will vet. We'll interview. We'll find the best of the best. I'm only going to present to you the best of the best candidates. And then what I'll do is I'll compile them. And let's say today's Tuesday. By next Tuesday or earlier, I'll send you an email with maybe 3 or 4 candidates and their resumes on Tuesday. And you can tell me which of them you would like to interview. And then we can schedule interviews on our side. And then we can go from there. And that's my process. They will usually agree to your process. So that's the point of what I'm making here. They will usually agree to your process. Therefore, you've sort of flipped the script and basically made it on your terms, because it's really, really easy for them, once you've explained how that works, for them to just say, yeah, that sounds really good, or we'll just go with that. If you explain it in some fashion like that, like I'll compile candidates, I'll put them in an email, I'll get them to you on X date, and then you can tell me, who you'd like to interview and then when you'd like to interview them. Gives you two huge advantages. Number one, puts this a little bit more on your terms. You're a search agency. You're very, very busy. You should be very busy. You should have a lot of clients that you're working with, not just this client, but many others. And you need to be able to compile things and do them on a macro level and basically just submit candidates and let them fly with that client and see who's good or not. The second element, compiling candidates like that, sending them in a bulk email to a new client that you don't really know that well, gives you an awesome upside, because it gives you the opportunity to let them check out 3 or 4, 5, whatever resumes and calibrate. So the end of this is calibration. So when they take a look at all of these resumes, you're going to get the truth. You're going to get the reality of what they're actually looking for. So when you find 5 stellar resumes and you're like, these guys are awesome for Bob, I'm sending them in right now, and you send them over to Bob, he gets them all on Friday, and then you get feedback on Monday from Bob, and he tells you, wow, 4 out of those 5 were terrible. I never want to see any of them. But that one was good. Perfect. Now you kind of know what to do. Or it's going to be, wow, 4 out of those 5 were stellar. That one guy, he was lacking just this one thing, but 4 out of those 5 were perfect. So you can go back to your internal blueprint and know, wow, I was on the right track. That's what I need to keep searching for. And that's what I need to keep, my eye on. So going back through all the steps, which positions are you looking to fill? Historically, which have been the hardest for you to fill? What methodologies are you currently using or have you used in the past to find candidates, internal recruiters, external recruiters? What does your ideal candidate look like? What is your process overall, meaning how do you interview and how do you intake new candidates? And then explaining your process entirely and how that works. So that's all of it. That's how I conduct a conversation with a hiring manager once we're off, once we're rolling. This is only after a contract is signed. I'm not putting in any of this work in this conversation until a contract is fully signed and we're off to the races. And we might have some of these conversations beforehand, but it's only going to be a few of these questions here and there. But I'm only rigorously diving into this stuff once I know that I have a contract signed and I'm getting paid to actually begin this search. So anyways, that's all I wanted to convey for you guys today. That's it. That's how to talk to a hiring manager once a contract is signed. So I will catch you tomorrow, Thursday. I hope you're working hard. I hope you're all doing awesome, and I'll see you later.